Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone? Not because nobody was talking to you, not because you were being ignored, but because something inside you quietly whispered, "I don't belong here." It's a strange feeling. You can be sitting with friends, laughing at the same jokes, participating in the same conversations, and yet feel like there's an invisible wall between you and everyone else. For some people, this feeling appears only occasionally. For others, it follows them throughout their entire life. School, work, relationships, social groups. No matter where they go, they always seem to feel slightly out of place. Most people assume this means something is wrong, that they're awkward, broken, too sensitive, or simply bad at connecting with others. But psychology suggests something much more interesting. Sometimes, the feeling of not belonging isn't caused by loneliness. Sometimes it's caused by the way your mind experiences the world. One reason some people struggle to feel like they belong is that they spend more time observing than participating. Most people enter a room and naturally become part of what's happening. They join conversations, they react, they engage. But some people instinctively step back. They watch, they listen, they notice things. They notice how people's personalities change depending on who they're talking to. They notice tension hidden beneath a smile. They notice when someone's words don't match their actions. While everyone else is focused on the conversation, they're focused on the patterns behind it. Psychologists often associate this with heightened awareness and pattern recognition. The problem is that observing can sometimes create distance. The more you watch, the more you realize that many social interactions follow predictable patterns. And once you start seeing those patterns, it's difficult to stop. Sometimes you feel less like a participant and more like an observer of human behavior. Another reason some people feel different is that they think about things more deeply than the people around them. Most people move through life without questioning everything. They experience events and continue moving forward. But some minds naturally dig deeper. A simple conversation becomes a puzzle. A random comment becomes something worth reflecting on. A disagreement becomes an opportunity to understand human nature. Instead of asking, "What happened?" they ask, "Why did it happen?" And then, "What does it mean?" Deep thinking can be a gift. It helps people understand themselves. It helps them understand others. But it can also create a sense of separation. Because while everyone else has moved on, their mind is still exploring the deeper layers of the experience. Sometimes they feel disconnected not because they think too much, but because they think differently. One of the most painful parts of feeling different is feeling misunderstood. Many people assume that being misunderstood means nobody cares. But that's not usually the case. Often, people care deeply. They simply don't see what's happening beneath the surface. People who feel different frequently have rich inner worlds. Their thoughts are complex. Their emotions are layered. Their experiences are difficult to explain. And because of that, they often learn to keep large parts of themselves hidden. Not because they're secretive, but because explaining everything feels impossible. Have you ever tried to explain something you felt strongly about, only to realize halfway through that the other person wasn't really understanding? Over time, experiences like that create a subtle belief, maybe nobody will ever truly understand me. And once that belief takes hold, the feeling of not belonging becomes even stronger. But here's where things become interesting. Many people who feel like outsiders are actually searching for something most people rarely think about: authenticity. They don't just want connection. They want real connection. They don't just want conversation. They want meaningful conversation. Small talk often feels exhausting. Surface-level relationships can feel empty. Not because they're antisocial, but because their mind naturally searches for depth. Imagine sitting in a group where everyone is discussing everyday topics. You participate, you smile, you contribute, but internally, you find yourself wanting something more, something real, something honest, something that goes beyond appearances. This is incredibly common among people who feel different. What they're really searching for isn't popularity, it's understanding. And finding that can take time. Now, here's the strange part. Many people spend years trying to solve this feeling by becoming more like everyone else. They hide parts of their personality. They stop sharing unusual opinions. They laugh at things they don't find funny. They pretend to care about things they don't actually care about. Slowly, they begin building a version of themselves designed to fit in. And often it works. People accept them. They become part of the group. But the feeling doesn't disappear. Because fitting in and belonging are not the same thing. You can fit in almost anywhere. Belonging happens when you no longer have to pretend. Psychologists have repeatedly found that people experience the strongest sense of belonging when they feel accepted for who they truly are, not who they're performing as, not who they're pretending to be, but who they genuinely are. And that's why some people continue feeling disconnected even when they're surrounded by others. The connection exists, but authenticity doesn't. Many of the people who feel different carry strengths they don't fully recognize. They tend to be curious, reflective, independent thinkers, deep observers. They often care more about truth than approval, more about meaning than popularity, more about understanding than fitting in. Ironically, the very traits that make them feel different are often the same traits that allow them to see the world in unique ways. The observer notices what others miss. The deep thinker finds meaning where others see nothing. The sensitive person understands emotions that others overlook. What feels like a weakness can often become a strength once it's understood. So what if the goal isn't to fit into every room you enter? What if the goal is to find the rooms where you don't have to change who you are? Because perhaps the feeling of not belonging isn't proof that something is wrong with you. Perhaps it's proof that you're still searching for the people, places, and environments where your authentic self can exist without apology. The truth is, many people who feel different spend years trying to become more like everyone else, only to eventually discover that their uniqueness was never the problem. The problem was trying to force themselves into spaces that weren't built for them. And when they finally find people who understand them, something remarkable happens. The feeling of being different doesn't disappear, but it stops feeling lonely. Because sometimes, the people who feel like they don't belong aren't broken. They're simply searching for where they truly belong. And maybe that's exactly where their journey begins. If you recognized yourself in this video, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring psychology, human behavior, and the hidden patterns shaping how people think, feel, and act, consider subscribing. Because sometimes, your mind is playing you.